am reacting to your Monday Night Raw Hot Takes. Hot Takes is a weekly video series where I give you all a platform to be able to voice your thoughts, whether they're good or bad, about the current state of professional wrestling. This is the first week where we're doing two hot takes, one where I ask for your hot takes after Raw, and one where I ask for your hot takes after SmackDown. So because of that, I'm gonna need your feedback on if you like this new format. So please let me know in the comments down below, and I'll decide based on the feedback whether or not we continue with 2 or 1 per week. So if you want to be featured in a future episode of Hot Takes, make sure that you're following me on X. I'm going to be asking for your hot take on there after every single episode of Raw and SmackDown. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, ring that bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I'm confident that you're going to fall in love with his YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. And this is a reminder that we now have a Reddit page for you to submit your pictures, memes, videos, your questions, whatever it might be. And once a week, I will go on that Reddit page and I will make a reaction video for here on YouTube. So if you want to be featured in that, make sure that you're checking out the Reddit page. I'll put the link in the description. All right, now let's read your stupid shit. Raw is the horniest show since the Attitude Era. Just imagine what they're gonna do on Netflix. I'm gonna be honest with you. I love what's going on with Liv Morgan and Rhea Ripley, and I love that they're pushing the boundaries, but this is as far as I want them to take it. I do not want them to go above that line and go into a live sex celebration between Edge and Lita type of thing. I don't want them to go full Attitude Era. I think that to a certain degree, I want my wrestling to be something that I can share with casual people or with people that have never watched wrestling before. And I'm going to be honest, that Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan segment, as much as I personally really liked it, and as much as many of you probably really liked it, I think it would have been really difficult and borderline uncomfortable to try and show that to people that aren't into the world of professional wrestling. So I hope that this is as far as they take it with the sexual nature and the campiness of it. That being said, I love what they're doing. I don't want them to stop. I just want to make sure that we don't overstep the boundary. And you're mentioning Netflix here. I don't think that Netflix is going to be this thing where all of a sudden tits are out and we're doing everything under the sun imaginable. I don't believe that that's going to be the case, but I do think that it's going to give the WWE more leeway to do things or touch on storylines that they wouldn't be able to on traditional cable or network TV. That being said, I don't think that the WWE would want to touch those storylines because they still have sponsors that they need to appease, even if they no longer have these network TV overlords. So I believe that this is as campy, this is as rated R, or as you say, as horny as it's going to get in the WWE. I don't think that it's going to get any crazier than this. I still believe that Dominic is going to cost Rhea at SummerSlam and join Liv. I could be delusional, but I still have that gut feeling that that's the outcome. I think in some way, shape, or form, Dominic Mysterio has to be involved in the finish. He's been involved in the entirety of the storyline. He's the reason why this storyline pretty much is as hot as it is. Yeah, sure, of course you could have built this off of the back of Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, their history, and the fact that it was Liv Morgan that took out Rhea Ripley, but it's Dominic Mysterio that took this already good feud and made it nuclear white hot. So he has to be involved in the match, and I firmly believe that he's going to be involved in the decision in some way, shape, or form, whether it's a full-blown double heel turn, because he's already a heel, so it'd be like turning heel on top of already being a heel, turning on Rhea Ripley, I guess I should say. I don't know if it's necessarily going to be that. It could be him costing Rhea Ripley by accident, because he's helped Liv Morgan win a couple of times, not on purpose as well. So maybe that's the route that they go. But what I can say is that they have to explore this beyond one match. It cannot just be a one and done at SummerSlam. And because I don't think it should be a one and done at SummerSlam, Liv Morgan needs to win. SummerSlam is now guaranteed to be a good show at a minimum because of the stories. The show doesn't even have to have happened yet for it to be obvious. I'll just say last year's SummerSlam had some pretty great stories as well. Let's not forget It's Tribal Combat the great stuff that was going on between the Usos, Jey Uso, and Roman Reigns, and that really fell flat at SummerSlam to the point where a lot of people felt it ruined SummerSlam. So let's not count our chickens before the eggs have hatched. I do believe that right now we are on the precipice of a potentially amazing SummerSlam, but let's just wait until the show is actually over before we start throwing things around like a guaranteed good show at minimum, because nothing is guaranteed. They could could absolutely ruin this. I don't think that they will, but right now, the landscape at the very least looks like it's going to yield some very delicious crops because, like you said, the stories are so good right now that it will help carry this show a good portion of the way, but not all the way. The stuff that happens in the ring and the booking with the decisions will also have a major impact on our overall thoughts and feelings on the show.
He does. Why would you wear
Whoa!
fake? Oh, look at that.
See? Okay.
Time. Oh.
Oh. That was cool. Through. Get the pin, Cena.
Go.
Oh my God.
Oh God. Then Roman's.
Folks, that was a sneak peek of this week's Wrestling is Cool SummerSlam Match Club, which is available exclusively over on patreon.com/SantiZap. This week, we're looking at Ricochet versus AJ Styles, SummerSlam 2019. The 2016 WWE Championship match between Dean Ambrose and Dolph Ziggler. The SummerSlam Classic at SummerSlam 2016 between John Cena and AJ Styles. A street fight between Dominic Mysterio and Seth Rollins at SummerSlam 2020. And the iconic SummerSlam 2022 main event between Brock Lesnar and Roman Reigns. You're going to get those 5 watch-alongs alongside the Raw review, the SmackDown review, and the podcast 3 days early. That's 8 pieces of extra content, all available on patreon.com/SantiZap. I'll put the link at the top of the description or in the pinned comment, but I'm confident that if you even give it 1 month that you're going to fall in love with it. Now back to the video. Damien Priest should retain at SummerSlam. His reign has been super entertaining. I don't necessarily agree that his reign has been super entertaining, but he's been super entertaining these past 2 weeks. And in these past 2 weeks alone, they've done a better job at getting me to care about Damien Priest as a champion than the entirety of the last several months since he won the championship at WrestleMania. They've done a wonderful job of building this feud with such a short amount of time and making Damien Priest, one, be an entertaining champion like you're saying here, but also a babyface that you actually want to get behind. This is also, to Gunther's defense as well, the first time that I want to see Gunther actually lose, because before all of this, Gunther was just so liked and respected because of how good he was in the ring, and he was never this dastardly heel that made you want to hate him. Now he is, because of his great promo work, his great storytelling, and the fact that he's got this aura that his shit smells better than all of ours. This is a great feud through and through, and they've only had 2 weeks to build it. So huge kudos to those two for making us care about a feud that 3 months ago seemed very unappealing. The CM Punk versus Drew match, or in the worst case, the Damien Priest match, should main event SummerSlam and not Solo versus Cody to make it memorable. I do believe that Solo versus Cody Rhodes is going to main event, and it's not because of what those two provide, because in terms of the storyline between Solo and Cody, I'm just not buying it, but it's going to main event simply because of the prospect of Roman Reigns returning. And if he's going to return, it's going to be in a main event segment. It's not going to be to open the show. It's not going to be halfway through the show. It's going to be to help close out the entirety of SummerSlam. Pretty much because of that reason alone is the reason why you need to consider Solo versus Cody the main event of WrestleMania, of SummerSlam. But if it wasn't for the prospect of Roman Reigns, then this match is entirely forgettable in terms of build, because Cody's motivation and Solo's motivation don't really make me believe that this is a championship feud. It feels like it's just Solo Sikoa trying to best Roman Reigns, who's a guy he's not even feuding against or having a match against, and is a guy that's not even there at the moment, which sucks for the overall, I guess, prestige of the WWE Championship. If it wasn't for the prospect of Roman, basically, long story short, this shouldn't be main eventing. Any other match could. Raw is good, but if you're a woman not named Liv or Rhea, they just put you in the most random, meaningless storylines. I'm pretty sure half the audience falls asleep every time Zoe Stark is on screen. Now that Io and Asuka are both gone, it feels even worse. I actually think that you're onto something here. I do believe that the Raw women's division is struggling as a whole. And when I look at the landscape of the Raw women's division in terms of main eventers and aura, it's severely lacking compared to what's going on SmackDown. Not that SmackDown's doing a particularly better job of booking them and making them feel like, you know, super important within the SmackDown division either. So Raw definitely needs more talent, but I think more than anything right now, both brands need a mid-card champion, because what's going on is if you're not in the main event scene, okay, tag team division you go for a little while. We'll make a random ass tag team and you'll be down there for a little while until we need you for a main event feud. That seems to be what's going on with the women across both Raw and SmackDown, actually. But having a mid-card title would prevent that, where now the tag team division can actually be tag teams and the mid-card division could actually be that breeding ground for the next main eventer or the next person up at bat. With the past 2 episodes, Triple H has done a fantastic job of a short-term build with Damien Priest and Gunther. Can't wait for the match at SummerSlam. I know that I kind of talked about this, but I mostly picked this one because you talked about Triple H doing a good job at short-term booking, because it seems like Triple H, all he does and all he seems to do really well is long-term booking. How many times have we heard the phrase, just let them cook? Let's just let it play out. Let's see where it goes. Sometimes we can just let things cook in the short term. Sometimes a good meal can just come from the microwave. It doesn't have to be this beautiful thing that takes months in the oven. Sometimes we can do it really quick and we can do it really effectively, like Gunther versus Damien Priest. It doesn't always have to be super long-term, winding road, incredibly complex long-term booking. WWE needs more tag teams, in my opinion. Yes and no. I do think that right now the tag team division is suffering as a whole, partly because there are very few tag teams that have an identity as a tag team. So that's where bringing in tag teams like maybe the Motor City Machine Guns, bringing up people from NXT that have more of a tag team identity, using existing teams like Alpha Academy, using AOP, using the New Day as part of the tag team division would help. The problem right now is just the booking of the tag team division. It doesn't matter what great tag teams you put in there. If they're not being booked right, if the division isn't being booked right, I don't care if you're the Hardy Boys, the Dudley Boys, it's just not going to work unless the tag team division as a whole gets fixed. CM Punk versus Drew McIntyre should have been a street fight instead of Seth being a special guest referee. I've been seeing a lot of people upset about Seth Rollins being inserted into this match into a degree, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. I kind of agree. However, that being said, Seth Rollins needed to be part of SummerSlam in some way, shape, or form, and I think that he was always a plan B, a contingency plan in case CM Punk didn't get cleared. On top of that, beyond SummerSlam, these 3 are going to be intertwining with one another. We're going to have these guys in matches against one another, triple threat matches. So this is a good way to make sure that Seth Rollins has his foot in the door for when it eventually devolves into that beyond SummerSlam. But you mentioned it should have been a street fight. I think that we need to give this feud time to grow so that the second and third matches can be those matches that have major stipulations, like Bad Blood, where places and matches like Hell in a Cell tend to take place. I think this Final Testament / New Day storyline ends up with Big E coming back. Could be completely wrong, but damn it, it's a hot take. It's certainly a take, but as I said, let's read your stupid shit. I know I'm being mean here, but no, Big E shouldn't come back in this. This is a terrible feud that no one cares about, a feud that can't even get on a PLE, let alone sniff a PLE. This is not where you bring back somebody like Big E. Frankly, if they didn't bring Big E when New Day was feuding with Imperium, where Gunther was there for somebody like Big E to be able to stand up to, I don't see Big E coming back anytime soon. It's certainly not going to be against the Final Testament. Dom should have chosen Liv. To be fair, all right? To be fair, she did get him the Chicky Nuggies. She did get him a PS5, a free copy of WWE 2K. What's not to like? Seth Rollins being the special guest referee has ruined the match and has taken away the fuel and fire that was between Drew and Punk. I don't agree that it's taken away from the fuel and fire of the match. I think this is still like the best feud going into SummerSlam, but I think this is interesting because I do feel like it's just unnecessary kindling to the fire. We've talked about this before. Like, this feud didn't need the Money in the Bank briefcase being burned on it. This feud doesn't necessarily need Seth Rollins in there to make it an even better feud. They're really making sure that you know that this is arguably the biggest feud going into the show. But when you add too much, sometimes you're getting too many hands in the kitchen, too many cooks, as they say. I still am very excited for it, but I get what you're saying. You know, this is unnecessary fuel and unnecessary fire for something that is already a forest fire across the entire state. Putting Seth Rollins as a special guest referee is amazing. It leaves so many questions with what they're going to do throughout the entire match. I can't wait. So see, some people love it, some people hate it. We have an individual here that really likes it. And you know, wanting to have Seth Rollins on the show is not a crazy hot take. Like, Seth Rollins needs to be on a major show like this. He's one of the biggest names in the WWE, and if he's active and available, you absolutely should have him on the show. And this is an easy way for him to be inserted into a show like SummerSlam. I will say it does leave some questions up in the air. Like you said, is he going to call it down the middle? Is he going to be Joker Seth Rollins and cause shenanigans? Is he going to favor one guy over the other? Is he going to attack somebody? Is he going to lay them both out before the end of the match? Who the hell knows? Lots of unanswered questions. Lots of questions that we have in general because of this, and I think that that's good. Not really a hot take, but I thought that Jay and Sammy won the fucking tag team titles. Don't worry, it's gonna happen. I promise you, that's where they're gonna go. Jay and Sammy will win the tag titles, probably at Bash in Berlin or Bad Blood. We're approaching Edge and Lita levels with this Rhea, Liv, and Dom story. We are taking steps towards it, but we can't get close to it. I don't think that we're close to it yet. Trust me, the live sex celebration, if you're around for that time, that shit was just on another level of wild, and it can never happen on TV and WWE ever again if it wants to be taken seriously as, you know, as a mainstream piece of television. We cannot get there ever again. I think that we can continue to play around with the campiness of it. I think we can teeter the line, but we can't ever get to this. What's with all the hate towards Sami Zayn? Everyone loved him like a few months before WrestleMania, and now everyone doesn't like him. Like, why? Because wrestling fans are fickle. Like, literally, that is the answer. At one point, they will love you, they will rise you up and take you to the top of the mountain. And once you're at the top of the mountain, it's those very same wrestling fans that got you there that will topple you down. That's exactly what's happening here. We're fickle, basically, is what I'm saying. They should have paid off Otis versus Chad before the Uncle Howdy feud started. You are 1000% right. It's actually such a missed opportunity to not do Chad Gable versus Otis. If they were to do it now, it's too little too late, because we're on to the next bigger new thing, which is Uncle Howdy and Chad Gable. They should have 100% at the very least had like a really hyped up match on Monday Night Raw, a match at Money in the Bank, dare I say. It should have happened, but it didn't. They missed the opportunity, and now because of that, Chad Gable will continue to push forward with his career in this feud with Uncle Howdy and the Wyatt Six. But I think that Otis, with time, will fade into obscurity, and it shouldn't be that way. They should have really paid off this feud. They booked Braun so strong tonight that if he loses at SummerSlam, there's no hope. There's no better time than SummerSlam to give him the Intercontinental Championship. So they also booked him really strong going into Money in the Bank, and he lost. And I wasn't necessarily mad that he lost. I was just mad at how that dominance leading into Money in the Bank never once showed its face during the Money in the Bank match. It was just really odd that the lead up didn't really match like what was happening in the actual bout between Sami Zayn and Bron Breakker. The Bron Breakker that we were getting the build up was just not the same Bron Breakker that we got in the match. I hope it doesn't happen again, because we have an incredibly dominant Bron Breakker. He needs to be dominant in the match as well. He can't be losing to one hell of a kick, is what I'm saying. The pop when Bo/Uncle Howdy was doing the Sister Abigail was perfection. Really shows how much they love him and the Wyatt Six, and I hope he has a match with Chad at SummerSlam. Look, the Bray Wyatt and the Fiend, they have deep ties to SummerSlam. They're all of the biggest moments in Bray Wyatt's career, debuts and whatnot, have taken place at SummerSlam. So to me, it's symbolic that the Wyatt Six and Bo Dallas, Uncle Howdy have their first match, their major debut at SummerSlam. To me, it just makes sense. And Chad Gable is such an awesome character and such a great in-ring worker as well to help elevate the Wyatt Six as a whole. Ilya was called up way too early. He keeps on losing to other stars who are valued over him, and they should have just waited for Gunther to win the world title and then call up Ilya as a surprise opponent for Gunther. I will say the prospect of Gunther versus Ilya Dragunov at Bash at Berlin is seeming less and less and less likely because, as you mentioned, Ilya keeps on losing and losing and losing. It does kind of suck. I'm concerned that Ilya is just going to become Dolph Ziggler, the next Ricochet, the guy that you know will put on a banger match, but the guy that will never be given anything of substance. I do believe that that won't be the case because I've seen Ilya's work in NXT. He is a fantastic, fantastic character as a whole, something that I don't think that Ricochet ever really had in NXT or the main roster. So I think with time, the cream will rise to the top. And at the top, I think you're going to find Ilya Dragunov. This segment made Santi's app oil up. Not on camera, though. All right, well, that's enough internet for me today. All right, folks, thanks so much for watching this episode of Hot Takes. I'm done. Goodbye. See ya. Get out of here.